core elements of personal growth. Opening. Let me ask you to imagine something for a moment. Every morning when you wake up, life hands you a blank canvas. And you're the artist. The brush? It's every single choice you make that day. The thing is, a lot of people let someone else paint their canvas. They let their job paint it, social media paint it, expectations and silent comparisons fill it with hurried strokes, heavy lines, and emptiness. Have you ever felt like that? Like you're moving through the days with no clear direction? Doing a lot, but not sure why. Trying your best, yet somehow still feeling not enough. Almost as if you're living someone else's life, not your own. I know that feeling, not just because I've been through it, but because I've listened to hundreds of stories like yours. From high schoolers struggling to choose their path, to adults in their 30s wondering if they've ever truly lived their life. You know what I've realized? Personal growth doesn't come from changing the whole world overnight. It comes from having the courage to add just one new brushstroke to your life each day. And today, I want to share with you 10 core elements, simple but powerful, that I believe can help you rebuild the masterpiece of your life. Not with pressure, not with perfection, just with small, meaningful choices you can start making today. No one is born knowing how to live a meaningful life, but anyone who's willing to grow, just a little each day, can live a life that truly matters. So, are you ready? Let's begin. Part 1: Attitude. Have you ever noticed? On a rainy day, one person looks out the window and sighs, "Ugh, rain again, so annoying." But another smiles and says, "Perfect. The plants will be happy today." Same situation, totally different attitude. And that attitude, it changes everything. I once had a friend, super smart, top of his class, but always carried a heavy cloud around him. Anytime someone gave even the smallest criticism, he'd shrink. He'd start to believe he wasn't good enough. Even in good situations, he focused on what might go wrong. He missed out on so many great opportunities, not because he lacked talent, but because his attitude closed the door before life could even knock. It's heartbreaking, really. Psychologists say, you don't see life as it is. You see it as you are. Your attitude is the lens. It affects how you feel, how you interpret situations, and how people respond to you. A lot of people think, I'll be more positive when life gets better. But the truth is, life gets better when you choose to be more positive. And the best part? You can train your attitude every single day. It doesn't require massive change. It could be as small as choosing not to complain in traffic and listening to your favorite podcast instead. Or taking 2 minutes at night to write down 3 little things you're grateful for. Now, I get it. There are days when it's really hard to be positive. Days when you're tired, disappointed, or just drained. And I'm not asking you to fake it or to force toxic positivity. But I am asking you to remember, a little bit of gratitude can lead to a much better day. A little bit of patience can create a more peaceful life. A little bit of hope can open the door to a better future. So if there's one small thing you can do for yourself today, let it be this. Choose to see the world with a gentler heart. And tomorrow, do it again, just a little bit. One small shift each day, and before you know it, you'll change how you see life, and life will start to respond in kind. Part 2: Self-discipline. Let me tell you a story. I once worked with a young guy who was full of talent and big ideas. He was always excited at the start, fired up, dreaming big. But after a few weeks, he dropped the project. Something new would catch his attention, and the old thing would fade away. He kept telling me, I don't know why I never follow through. So I asked him, have you ever trained your discipline? See, most people think discipline is about being strict or forcing yourself to suffer. But that's not it. Discipline is just this: doing the right thing, even when you don't feel like it. And here's the beautiful part. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. You don't need to start with something huge. You can start small, really small. Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Finish a tiny task you've been avoiding. Read just 5 pages of a book you care about. These little wins, they matter. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you're sending a powerful message to your brain. I can trust myself. I'm the kind of person who finishes what I start. And that's self-trust. That's where confidence comes from. Someone once said, everyone has dreams, but only disciplined people turn them into reality. So if you've been feeling stuck, uninspired, or constantly falling short, don't beat yourself up. You probably don't have a motivation problem. You just haven't trained your discipline muscle yet. And here's the good news. You can start today. You don't have to be perfect, just consistent. One small habit at a time. One act to follow through at a time. Over time, those tiny actions become your character. And that character, that's what builds a life you can be proud of. Remember this. Discipline isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. Freedom to choose your path, stay true to it, and become who you're meant to be. Part 3. Mindset and beliefs. Have you ever wondered, why do some people rise from the toughest situations, while others stay stuck, even when they seem to have everything? The answer often lies not in what's around them, but in what's inside their mind. I once coached a young woman. She was bright, capable, and full of potential. But every time she was about to start something new, she'd freeze. When I asked her why, she said, I don't think I'm good enough. I'm scared I'll mess it up. Everyone else is probably better than me anyway. Sound familiar? Maybe you've had those thoughts too. The ones that whisper, you can't, you're not ready. Who do you think you are? Here's the truth. Your actions are always shaped by what you believe about yourself. And many of those beliefs, they're not facts. They're just stories, old stories. Maybe from past failures. Maybe from a voice in your childhood. Maybe from comparing yourself too much online. But here's the good news. Just like beliefs were built, they can also be rebuilt. Your past doesn't define your future. The mindset you choose today shapes who you become tomorrow. Developing a healthy mindset isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about changing the story you tell yourself. Instead of, I can't, say, I'm learning how. Instead of, I always fail, say, I'm growing from this. Instead of, I'm not ready, say, I'm willing to start. This is what psychologists call a growth mindset. The belief that abilities can improve with effort and time. And the moment you start making that mental shift, your world starts shifting too. Every time you change a limiting thought into an empowering one, you create space. Space for action. Space for courage. Space for possibility. So here's your question for today. What belief is holding you back? And what new belief could set you free? Asterisk, asterisk. Be honest. Be curious. Be willing to rewrite the script in your head. Because once you change the way you think, you'll begin to change the way you live. Part 4. Self-awareness. Here's a question I often ask people who feel stuck in life. Do you really know yourself? It sounds simple, but honestly, it's one of the hardest questions to answer. Because most of the time, we're not really living as ourselves. We're living as the version we think we're supposed to be. I once had a friend, always busy, always achieving. But when I asked him, what are you doing it all for? He went silent because he didn't know anymore. He was chasing goals, but had lost touch with his why. Have you ever felt that way? Working hard, staying productive, but feeling strangely empty inside, trying to look okay on the outside, while quietly wondering, is this really me? Self-awareness isn't about sitting in silence for hours or reading tons of self-help books. It starts with something much simpler and more powerful. Being honest with yourself. Asking questions like, what am I really feeling right now? Am I living in line with my values? Am I showing up as my true self, or just performing? When you understand your triggers, you learn how to heal. When you recognize your strengths, you learn how to grow. Self-awareness is like holding up a mirror, not to criticize, but to see clearly. And here's the thing. The more you understand yourself, the less you're controlled by emotion, fear, or outside noise. I often recommend this tiny practice. 5 minutes of emotional journaling a day. Just write down, what made you feel good today? What made you feel off? How did you react? And what might you try next time? That's how you begin to reconnect with your inner compass. Because the truth is, the world will always keep spinning. But when you know who you are, you don't get lost in the spin. Self-awareness is your anchor, and you are the one holding the line. Part 5, Time Management. Have you ever reached the end of the day and thought, wait, what did I even do today? I've been there, and so have most of the people I've coached. Here's the truth. We all get 24 hours a day. But how we use those hours, that's where the difference lies. Time management isn't about cramming your schedule with nonstop tasks. It's about choosing the right things to focus on and letting the rest go. I once worked with a college student who constantly felt overwhelmed. She said, I just don't have enough time. So we sat down and looked at her weekly schedule. Turns out she had time. It just slipped away in tiny, invisible moments. Scrolling aimlessly, multitasking, saying yes to things that didn't really matter. So here's a mindset shift. You don't need more time. You need more clarity. Asterisk, asterisk. Start by asking yourself each morning, what are the 3 most important things I need to do today? When you know your priorities, you stop chasing distractions. And here's another tip. Don't just plan your work, plan your rest. Rest isn't laziness. Rest is fuel. Without breaks, even the most focused mind will burn out. Time is the one resource you can't earn back, but you can always start using it more intentionally, starting now. And when you do, you'll discover something powerful. When you manage your time with purpose, you begin to live your life with purpose too. Part 6, Communication. There's a quote I love that says, the quality of your life is directly related to the quality of your relationships. And what's the secret to great relationships? You guessed it, communication. But here's the thing. Good communication isn't just about speaking well. It's about listening well, understanding deeply, and connecting honestly. I remember coaching a student, smart, talented, super driven, but he often clashed with his teammates. When we dug deeper, I asked, do you really listen to others when they speak? He paused and said, to be honest, I'm usually just waiting for my turn to reply. That moment changed everything for him. You see, communication doesn't begin with your mouth. It begins with your heart. It's not about saying a lot. It's about saying what matters at the right time in the right way. When you truly listen, with empathy and presence, you create a space where others feel safe, seen, and heard. And when you speak clearly, without blaming, attacking, or avoiding, you create a bridge, not a wall. Here are a few small habits that make a big difference. Pause before reacting. Ask, what are you really needing right now? Replace "you're wrong" with "help me understand your view." And remember, communication is a skill, not a personality trait. You can absolutely improve it day by day, because in the end, people won't always remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. So start small. Maybe today, just listen a little more deeply. Say thank you a little more sincerely. Ask one person, how are you really? That's how stronger relationships begin. And strong relationships, they shape a strong life. Part 7, Lifelong Learning. I once asked a very successful entrepreneur, what's the secret that's kept you growing all these years? He smiled and said, "I never stopped learning." It was such a simple answer, but one I'll never forget. The world is changing every day. What's relevant today might be outdated tomorrow, and the only way to stay ready for the future is to keep learning. Always. Asterisk, asterisk. But learning doesn't just mean books or degrees. It's a mindset, a daily practice of staying open, learning from a good book, from a meaningful conversation, from your mistakes, your pain, your life itself. I remember one of my students, a woman in her 50s, who was learning digital skills from scratch. She said, "I'm not learning to compete. I'm learning so I can keep growing." And that's the heart of lifelong learning. You don't learn to be better than others. You learn to become better than who you were yesterday. Asterisk, asterisk. You don't need to do a lot. Just start small. Read a few pages of something inspiring. Watch a short video that challenges your thinking. Write down one lesson you picked up today, because each little insight adds up. Bit by bit, you expand what you know and who you are. And here's the powerful truth. When you keep learning, you're telling yourself, "I still believe in my potential." And there's no greater motivation than that. So no matter how old you are, what job you have, or where you're starting from, let your mind stay curious. Let your spirit stay teachable. Because life will always have more to teach, and you will always have more to become. Part 8. Adaptability and relearning. Here's something interesting. In today's world, the most successful people aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who can learn the fastest and unlearn even faster. I once worked with a marketing executive who had over 15 years of experience. He was great at what he did. But then everything started going digital, AI, automation, social media strategy. And suddenly, his old ways weren't working anymore. Now, he could have resisted, stuck to what he knew. But instead, he chose to start over. He joined online courses, sat next to younger peers, asked questions, learned, grew, and within 6 months, he became a leader in digital branding at his company. That's the power of adaptability. Here's the truth. The skills that got you here won't necessarily get you there. Sometimes, the biggest barrier to growth isn't what you don't know. It's what you think you already know. To grow, we often have to let go. Let go of habits that no longer serve us. Let go of the pride that says, "I've got this all figured out." Let go of the fear of looking like a beginner again. Adaptability isn't weakness. It's flexibility. It's strength in motion. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to stay open to new ones. So if technology overwhelms you, start learning bit by bit. If your routines feel stale, try something different. If your beliefs are holding you back, question them with curiosity. Ask yourself, what am I willing to learn or unlearn today? Because while the world is changing fast, you don't have to fear the change. You can become the kind of person who rides with it. Adapt, relearn, grow. That's how you stay not just relevant, but fully alive. Part 9. Purpose. There's one question that many people avoid, but it may be the most important one of all. What am I really living for? I once worked with a businessman who had everything on the outside: success, money, status. But in a quiet conversation, he told me, "I don't feel happy. I don't even know why I'm doing all this anymore." Have you ever felt that way? Busy all the time, always chasing a goal, but deep down, not sure why it all matters. Here's what I've learned. Purpose isn't a big dramatic moment. It's not something you find, asterisk, asterisk. It's something you create, step by step, through how you choose to live every day. You can begin by asking, what makes me feel alive? What would I do even if no one was watching? If today were my last day, what would I want to spend it on? You may not have the answers right away, and that's okay. But the more you ask, the more you connect to what truly matters. When you live with purpose, everything shifts. Obstacles feel more like meaningful challenges. Work becomes contribution, not just income. Relationships become deeper, not just transactional. And here's the secret. People don't lack energy. They lack a reason big enough to wake up for. Purpose gives you that reason. So if you're unsure of yours right now, don't panic. Start by living more authentically. Do things that align with your values. Spend time with people who inspire you. Because when you act in alignment with who you are, your purpose will start to reveal itself. And when it does, you won't just live more days. You'll live a life that feels worth waking up for. Part 10, Gratitude. Maybe today didn't go as planned. Maybe you're tired, discouraged, or just trying to make it through. But even on days like that, there's one powerful practice that can shift your entire mindset. Gratitude. I once coached a woman who was going through a rough season. Financial struggles, heartbreak, feeling completely lost. She told me, I don't think I have anything left to be grateful for. But we started small. Each morning, I asked her to write down just 3 things she appreciated, no matter how simple. At first, she wrote things like, I'm still breathing. I had food to eat. A friend checked in on me. It felt forced at first, but something shifted. Week by week, her heart started softening, and she said something beautiful. I didn't know how much I still had until I chose to notice. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it changes how we carry it. When you practice gratitude, you train your eyes to see what's present instead of what's missing. You begin to recognize that ordinary things are actually extraordinary gifts. A message from someone who cares. A roof over your head. A lesson you learned the hard way. Gratitude also brings healing. Research shows that grateful people sleep better, experience less anxiety, and have deeper relationships. But you don't need research to feel it. Try it for yourself. You don't have to wait for a perfect day to feel grateful. Gratitude is what makes any day feel a little more perfect. So right now, ask yourself, what's one thing I can be thankful for, even in this moment? It could be the breath you're taking, the hope you haven't lost, the strength you didn't know you had. Gratitude isn't just a feeling. It's a way of seeing, a way of living. And when you live with gratitude, life stops feeling like something you have to survive and starts feeling like something you get to appreciate. Closing, the power of small steps. So here we are, at the end of this journey through 10 powerful ways to grow. And if there's one message I hope stays with you, it's this. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to choose one small thing and start today. Because transformation doesn't come from a big, dramatic leap. It comes from showing up again and again in the little moments. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing to try, to learn, to grow, even if it's one tiny step at a time. And if you ever wonder, can I really change my life? Remember this. You already are. Every time you choose growth over comfort, progress over perfection, intention over autopilot, the masterpiece of your life is still being painted. And the brush, it's still in your hand. Thank you for walking this path with me, with openness, reflection, and heart. I hope something here sparks something in you. And I hope you leave not just with ideas, but with a quiet decision to live a little deeper, a little more intentionally, starting now. Because you don't have to go fast. You just have to keep going. And who you become along the way, that's the real reward.